Thanks for coming. The whole point of this experiment is to talk about one law and a lot of misconceptions that lay people and the general public have about the law, and to make it also not so fucking serious, and complex. And law, life, and sports, something we all have strong opinions on here. And Ray, I guess in your 2 years that you've been doing this so far, coming from the background that you came from and jumping into this, not having any experience doing this, what would you say has been the thing that you have seen or learned the most in the past 2 years?
So I didn't have a lot of experience with regard to insurance and automobile insurance and how it all works. And so I find myself, now that I understand that when you buy a vehicle, how you protect your vehicle and yourself, and understanding that there are two phases to an accident and how that claim works. Trying to explain to the general public that your personal injury is separate from your property damage is very important. And to take care of yourself as well as your property, you need to take certain steps. And so many times, and most people don't buy brand new vehicles, they buy used vehicles. And so they end up upside down the moment they're into that vehicle. So the moment they get into an accident and they only have liability, they're immediately hurt or harmed financially because they're upside down. The vehicle is valueless, and should it be totaled, they're now having to pay that outlay. And that it's just painful listening to them say, well, now I don't have a vehicle. I still owe on the vehicle some nominal dollar amount, and now I have to get another vehicle, and I don't have money for any of it. And so, and even though they're not at fault, they're now without a vehicle. Now, hopefully that third party has insurance. Yeah. So if that third party has no insurance, they're just shit out of luck. And that's just a terrible part about how the world works, is that if the other person doesn't have insurance, you're out of luck.
You got to protect yourself.
It's just that was one of the things that I found has been the most painful thing to have to explain to someone that has just lost their vehicle. They didn't protect themselves because they're upside down in the vehicle, and the other person didn't have insurance. And so a lot of people in Texas don't have insurance, and then they get in an accident and they're stuck out.
Well, the thing is that they're expecting somebody else to carry that insurance. So that, hey, I wasn't at fault, but they should have insurance. You know, why is it on me to cover myself? But that should be the first thing you think about. And you mentioned like having a used vehicle, not a brand new vehicle. And I try to tell people that when you buy insurance, think about you're protecting yourself and from injuries. I know the vehicle means a lot to you. It's your transportation. Sometimes for a lot of people, it's their means of, earning a dollar. It's their way to and from work. It's their transportation. But in the long run, like if you get hurt, if your vehicle gets damaged or you get injured, then you need to be protecting yourself in the instance that somebody else doesn't have insurance, even if they're at fault or not, because you can buy insurance that if they're uninsured, then you've already put that safety net in place for yourself. But a lot of people, by the time we get to them, obviously it's too late, and they just, insurance agents, I don't know if they go and explain that to the people that are buying insurance. Not that people probably want to hear all the information also. They're like, I need insurance. I'm required to get it. Let me buy it.
And they have a cheap, and everybody just wants to be cheap or the most inexpensive.
The most inexpensive way. And I get it. You want to pay the least amount of money, but that means that you're just paying to protect your ass if you cause an accident. But if
it's a risk they're taking.
It's a risk you're taking, but it's a big risk.
It's mind-boggling to me how many people in America say, I have insurance, but they don't realize that it does not cover them. Yeah. Like it does not, especially in Texas. Because you have insurance does not mean that you're covered like that.
I just had a conversation yesterday explaining to a client that liability is to protect the damages you do to the public, not what the public does to you or any injury you might have sustained or anything that happens to you. It's what you have done. It's to protect your liability out, not something in. And so it's a painful thing to have to explain.
I tell people all the time, say, look, you're already paying. I can't even imagine. I don't pay $50 a month for insurance, but if you say for easy math's sake, I pay $50 for insurance for liability, well, you've already got up to $50 that you're paying for somebody else. That's the way I put it. The insurance is under your name,
right,
but really you're only protecting the public if you harm them, like you said. But to get your full coverage insurance or uninsured and underinsured and personal injury protection, which we always, recommend, you're probably going to be paying an extra $20, $30 a month. Right. So just pay that extra bit so that you can protect yourself if you get hit by one of these uninsured drivers or somebody who doesn't have enough coverage. If you get out there and Lord forbid that you have some really serious injuries, broken bones, you got a 2-night stay in the hospital, those bills are going to be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 quick. Mm-hmm. And if a person only has a minimum policy, which in Texas is $30,000, and if you don't have underinsured coverage, then that's all that is available to you. And you should really have that coverage because, hey, what if you or a family member, a child or somebody gets hurt beyond what's in that person's policy and you don't have the coverage? There's nothing else you can do.
That underinsured motorist is fantastic. I mean, it just does a lot of the good work.
Yeah.
To resolve a lot of the problems.
I saw this statistic that came out, I guess it was about a year or so ago, that in Texas, I think Texas has some of the highest underinsured or uninsured automobiles and motorists in the nation. I think it was something around like 33%. So if you think about it, that's like 3 out of every 10 people are not insured at all.
And considering Texas is a very large state and everybody drives, right? Yeah. And you'll notice this, and I had to explain this to my wife when we left Houston one day and we got into the HOV lane, and she says, "What is this HOV lane?" Because they don't have it anywhere else where we go. It's like in Austin, there's no HOV lane. Yeah. San Antonio, there's no HOV lane. But I said, if you look over to your right, you'll see all of these vehicles are driven by one driver. One guy is in that car. One person is in that car. This is just for groups. So look at all those vehicles. That's the number of people that are just driving by themselves, that 3 out of 10 of them don't have insurance. And that is just a massive amount of people.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think that's a very big misconception as far as things go in Texas about insurance and who's covered, who's not, and how many people are actually insured. And every state's different. Every law is different. Texas, thank God, has some of the higher policies in the nation. I think it's the highest policy, the 30, 60, 25. But there's a lot of other states that have, like their no-fault coverage, which is actually not bad. It's just basically PIP that you're forced to sign up for. And Texas is not one of those states. But it's good to make people aware of those types of things. What else have you seen, Ray, in the time that you've been here so far?
Let me ask you this, Ray. You're talking to maybe a potential new client on the phone, and you're having a conversation with somebody, and they probably have a really valid and legitimate claim. Good. We call it damages, meaning there's injuries, substantial injuries. There's an at-fault party. There's coverage there. There's insurance there. So we believe. What frustrates you the most, maybe, when you're talking to somebody?
Well, one of the things is the difficulty, once I get them understanding what insurance is for, understanding that they have a good case, and then they want to go, well, let me think about it. And I'm like, you're speaking to someone in the field. You called an attorney's office because you recognize you don't know everything. So I'm giving you all the facts. You're here. Let's get you moving forward. Let's start protecting your case. And the frustrating thing is when I have someone right now, I'm trying to get back on the phone, and they'll say, okay, let me call you right back. I just want to go talk about this with my significant other. And I'm like, the significant other doesn't work in this field.
You know what really grinds my gears?
Do you think your husband knows more than I do who you called for help?
And they have there's no dog in the fight. There's nothing. They're not involved in the claim.
I'm not taking anything from you. It doesn't cost you any money to sign up. It doesn't cost you any money to go see a doctor. I'm only here to make your life better, take the stress off of you, and your significant other. And your significant other, right? And they're going to call it and ask them, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, they're not going to know. Any answer he gives you will be less information than what I just gave you. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what I know.
Yeah.
He's not going to know the information, not going to be able to move you forward like you just knew to call.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's the
Yeah. And what that'll cause is delays
right.
In the claims process,
Right.
in the treatment process.
And even when I explain to them, every day you delay with your care after this accident, the insurance minimizes your claim. And even though I say
People
that,
don't realize that though. They think they're doing the right thing by trying to tough it out.
toughing it out. I have to. Once I get people signed up, I always let them know when you go to the doctor, do not tough out your injuries, especially guys. Guys, I don't want to tell the doctor that my knee is hurt from the accident. No, don't tough it out.
Or I'm okay.
No, don't ever say that. You let the doctor know every ache and pain that you feel. And I say this every time. And it's just frustrating. So that's one of the things that grinds my gears.
We had Vince and I, when we first started in this whole game, we had a guy that we went to his house and we were talking to him. And he, till this day, I'll never forget this. I'm sure Vince won't, but he told us, he said, I'm an amazing lover and I can no longer perform in the bedroom the way I used to.
He said that to you?
True story.
Is that from
It's a valid thing.
From the accident?
And I was like,
Actually, I think that's one of, so a lot of people don't know that when I made my move, my transition here from Austin, obviously me and Ray were good friends well before that. But he, would come up here because he has family here and friends as well. And he would come and visit, and he would come into the office periodically. And this is before I kind of started full time with David, and we would go and kind of assist with a little, one-offs, if you will, with clients or providers or whatnot we needed to do. And Ray went on a trip with me to to go visit a client to help him, assist him with getting around to a facility. And that's the client. We're not going to name any names.
Oh, that was the client?
That was the client.
I didn't know.
That was the client.
I didn't know he said that.
Yeah, he sure did. But yeah, I think
He was up there.
Yeah, he was. And it's weird because everybody's affected differently, and I can't imagine the trauma I'd have. I'm somewhat afraid of heights now because of something that happened on a bridge with my aunt one time. She freaked out. But I can't imagine what would happen to people who get hit by an 18-wheeler and they're carried for hundreds of yards, like which we've been told by our clients, like they just see this 18-wheeler in front of them, it's dragging their car. I don't know what that would do to me.
There is a traumatic effect. We've had a lot of clients who, yes, they have the physical injuries, but there's also the mental side of it. They've been driving for so long, and then it's a traumatic event that's happened to them. And people don't realize that once you get back in that vehicle, you see these same large, 18-wheelers, dump trucks, cement trucks, whatever they may be, right next to you on the highway, and it brings back those memories of, I know what happened last time I was near this, and it's a real thing. It's a real thing that clients have to go through. Fortunately, we have providers that are able to care for our clients in that fashion, not just on the physical aspect, but the mental aspect as well. But it is real. It's a real thing.
I'm hoping we actually have a case right now about that's going through like that. I'm curious to know how the insurance will address the settlement about the mental damages that our client is currently suffering.
It's hard to quantify it.
Right.
It's hard to quantify it, and a lot of times insurance companies can't quantify it. So that's why a lot of times you're forced to go to trial. And then at that point, it's hard for a jury to quantify it. So sometimes they offer a lot, sometimes they offer nothing. It just depends on the jury. But I think it's all kind of a developing thing, is that mental pain and suffering is something that's hard to quantify.
Yeah, but it's the only way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, one of my frustrations, or I don't want to say that, maybe peeves when I talk to people. First off, it's a misconception because, people will call us and they'll tell us about their accident and their injuries or whatnot. And the first thing they say is, I'm not trying to sue anybody. And I try to explain to them, like, hey, look, this is actually a claims process first. There's no lawsuit filed immediately unless it's warranted. But we initiate a claim. We handle it through the insurance. The adjusters will speak with them, but not until they either deny, dispute, or begin to delay their, evaluation process or evaluation of our demands, do we kind of get a sense of how they're looking at it and what they see as maybe true or untrue, or maybe this was valid or invalid, or maybe they got excessive treatment and care, but they're not physicians. They don't evaluate it. We leave it up to professionals to kind of diagnose our clients and to figure out when their bodies are right, when they can be released from care. But we're not suing anybody off the bat. We're actually just facilitating a claims process, and only up until the point where maybe they're not valuing it the way we value it, or the way our clients value their bodies and their mental health and the time that they've lost because they've been put out of a vehicle and having to go to treatment and having to do all these things. That's when we decide, hey, you know what, maybe we should file a lawsuit so that they can know that we mean business, and we're not just going to stop at y'all's little lowball offer, and we're going to make sure that we get our clients what they're entitled to. And I told all of our clients, like, hey, look, nobody's going to become millionaires just because. The insurance company's not going to just hand out money. They're going to fight. We had to fight for every tooth and nail just to get on an even playing field, just to get you what you deserve. That's what we have to fight for. And it's nothing more. Trust me, the insurance ain't going to give you anything more than they think they need to pay. That's the frustrating part.
I love one of the things you taught me when I first got here is making sure that the client understands that when they tell you, I don't want to file on my own insurance, ma'am, this is what you have insurance for. It's here to protect you. And it's like, why are you not wanting to use your insurance? It's beyond me. And so it's a frustrating thing to hear somebody say, I don't want to use my insurance, when it's the last viable option to them getting some type of care. Like, this is what it's for. You pay money every month for this reason right here.
It's like saying, let me just donate money every month to the insurance company just because I like the insurance industry. They don't do nothing for me, but I want to give them money.
No, you're right. It's funny too, because it, like whatever Vince is talking about right now, is that when adjusters look at these, say, well, if they're being reasonable or unreasonable, that's one of the things that really kind of bothers me about this industry, is that we will submit medical bills from medical doctors for these people who got treated, and some Joe Schmo insurance adjuster working for some Joe Schmo company will be like, I'm not going to offer you that much. That's excessive. Yeah. I'm not a doctor, and I know you're not a doctor. How can you possibly make that statement to me? Well, it's just too much money. Think about that. How is that even legal? How is that even legal? That
they're not doctors, but they get to arbitrarily just pick a number. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, my computer says it's excessive. Computer. I didn't know your computer was a doctor, much less any of these. It's just amazing to me how they have the latitude to be able to do that. Yep.
Well, they know that if they do that, or when they do that, then it's either going to force our hand. Yeah. Any other firm's hand, any other attorney's hand, anybody. It could be an individual's claim. And they either have to, at that point, make a decision. Will I accept what the insurance company is telling me, whether I agree with them or not? Or do I want to fight for what I think I'm just owed? Nobody's going to make a ton of money just because. Yeah. You're only going to get what you're entitled to, and that's all we want to do.
That's another thing.
I think that advertisement on the radio kind of makes people believe that money just falls out the sky just because there's a claim. That's not exactly the way that works.
That's another thing that irritates me, is that people are like, oh, well, I saw somebody get $1 million. You don't want to be that person. If that person got $1 million,
lost a leg.
They lost a leg or an arm, or they got really fucked up. Right. And people don't realize that. They're like, oh, well, they got $1 million. They got $10 million. Yeah, because they are beyond repair. They've suffered catastrophic injuries, and people don't realize that. Right. Let's switch topics a little bit. Ray, been with us for 2 years. Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Okay. I'm from Austin, Texas. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas. I've become acclimated to this Houston life, even though I've loved Houston all my life because I've always had family here. I've known you guys for the better part of almost 25 years now.
Damn.
Does that seem like a long time?
Yeah, that just means I'm old.
Right.
Bad old drunk, bad leg, foot, wrist, hand, back.
Everything hurts. Right. And so I graduated from college in Austin and everything. So I was working in purchasing, so I've always been a customer service oriented. Everybody thinks that purchasing is easy. Oh, you just spent money. That's not exactly the way that works. There's a whole process to it. Your customers are internal. You're buying to make sure that your processes are being handled and your customer base is happy. And I try to explain to people that a good purchasing agent at a company is the unknown person. You won't know that person even exists. You're doing your job well when they don't know that you're real. All they know is they sent an email, a product arrived a few days later, and there was some communication. If your phone rings as a purchasing agent, then you have not done your job well. So that means something has gone wrong with the order. It's not there on time. It's not the right order, or there's a problem, and that's what you don't want. So I use those skills to customer service skills, and I've kind of related it to that. My customers are now our clients, and so you want to communicate as much as you can to make sure that you're delivering the best product, and our product is our service. And so so I try to make sure that our clients know that we're still real, we're existing, and I send out communication constantly to make sure they know, I need this from you. Here's where we are in the process, and here's where we are near the end. And so I think we've done a good job of closing the loop on some of on our communication holes. I think I like that part, making people happy. I love when people say, "Oh man, working with y'all has been fantastic." And I enjoy, and when they get a good settlement at the end. It's a bit painful when I have to give bad news, and that kind of hurts. But I think it's just when you're open and honest. Like this week, I had to let a lady know that we could not take her case, but I explained to her the why, and that the damages weren't enough, and we would be in the way. And you've taught me to make sure that our clients understand that if we get in the way of the settlement that they've already achieved, then we've hurt their case, and that's not where we want to be.
Yeah.
And so once I explained it to them, they're okay, understanding that we don't want to take money from you, and that's what would happen if we signed you on. And so, and I've learned, and I can appreciate that. And it's been a learning experience all the way through. The legal field is an amazing field. It's a lot more precarious than I ever thought. Like the cases that we get, the slip and falls that we get, I'm like, wow, it's just amazing that so much liability out there.
Yeah.
I used to want to be a bar owner, but now I think questioning like, damn man, somebody could slip and fall, somebody spilled the drink and they slip and fall in the spot, and I didn't have anything to do with it, but now I'm liable for it, and it's like, and I don't know. It's just been a learning experience, this entire process. And I learn more and more every day. Like we just had a whole conversation. I never heard about the Jones Act that we just discussed today. And I'm like, what is that now? So it's like,
it's endless.
Yeah, so
but I think that's the main thing that kind of keeps it, kind of fresh. There are a lot of redundant things that we do. But, there's always that one call, that one person, whether it's an actual client or a potential client. You hear something new every day.
Like the call this morning.
Yeah. That's the first time I've ever heard of anything like that. That was crazy.
Yeah. So, quick question. Vince did horrible 2 weeks ago on his NFL pick. And so I got 2 games I want to ask y'all about.
I told people I bet with my heart.
I know.
I either bet with my heart or I bet for reverse psychology, and neither of them work for me.
And I know you're gonna hate this part, but I'm gonna say, as a Cowboys fan, I've learned after years and years, don't ever bet my team. Even though earlier on I said that they should have beat that team, I'm always questioning because the Cowboys will throw a game that they should win, and then they'll win a game that they should lose. It doesn't make any sense how they play.
So I have so here we are right now. I got 3 games for you guys. I got the Cowboys and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Steelers are favored by 2.5.
No comment.
Smart.
No comment.
Vince?
I'm not. Wait, is it still
Who's
Fields?
the quarterback?
Fields starting for them?
They beat Fields before when he was in.
Is it raining?
Chicago?
In Chicago.
What's the weather going to be like?
I don't know if it's raining. That's a good question.
I don't know. The Cowboys, did they win their last game? They lose.
Yeah, the Giants are sorry.
Oh, yeah. They barely won too.
Yeah, the Johnsons. It's an NFC East, baby. Everybody.
Yeah, you're right. We barely won our game against the Jags. We should have blown them out.
Everybody's look, again. I told you 2 years ago. I keep wanting to remind you. I told you 2 years ago when the Texans were losing games by just a last minute. They weren't being blown out, but they were just losing. I said it only takes one slight change, and they'll be winning games by that amount.
Yeah.
So now you're winning the games. Take those small victories. As they get better and they get stronger, they're going to be winning games by more and more.
Vinny?
I hope you're right. It's a wash. I think they're going to tie.
I think the Steelers are going to cover.
2 points?
I think the Steelers are going to cover 2.5 points.
They're going to win by a field goal?
I think they'll win by a field goal.
23-24.
In an ugly game.
Who did the Steelers beat last week?
I don't know who they've been beating, honestly, but they're 3-1 and the Cowboys are 2-2.
Yeah, but they haven't played the same
good
teams.
Y'all play the Giants.
Yeah, I'm saying the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't played the same team.
I have no idea who they've been playing. Yeah. Second one, it's a good one. The Saints and the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Chiefs are favored 5.5 points.
The Saints are weird, man.
In Kansas City.
The Saints are weird. That doesn't mean anything to the Saints.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Saints have a running game and running travels. Defense travels.
Yeah, but I think their wins have come in domes.
Fair. That is a
and
fair
this is going
point.
to be outside.
That is a
point.
fair,
Arrowhead.
complete point. That is a.
What's the weather like in Arrowhead?
It's probably beautiful. If it ain't raining, it's going to be beautiful.
Plus Patrick Mahomes on a final drive in the fourth
What's the
quarter.
spread?
5.5 points.
They're not going to beat the Saints by 5.5 points. Well, they should. Let me say that they should not.
I think the Saints will cover. Chiefs will win.
Saints will cover.
Vince?
I'd take that bet.
I take Saints plus the 5.
Saints plus the 5?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one. The Bills and the Texans.
We're losing this one.
Why you say?
Two touchdowns.
So it's funny.
at Texans.
It's funny because the odds makers yesterday, the Bills were favored by 1.
But
And it
earlier in the
flipped.
week,
It flipped.
early in the week, the Texans were by 1.
Well, yesterday the Bills are favored by 1, and now the Texans are favored by 1 again.
You know how that changes?
I ain't touching that one.
You know why that changes?
Why?
People like us have started betting.
Yeah.
No. You know why else? I just remembered.
Started
What's his name? He used to play with Denver. Sack Monster.
Von Miller?
Von Miller got suspended for 4 games.
Wow.
He ain't going to be for some assault charge or something from like last year. Is disciplined by the NFL. 4-game
Oh, yeah,
suspension.
he's out.
He's
but
out.
he wasn't a starter anyway.
What?
I don't think he's played. Like last week he played. He had one tackle.
I don't care. He's a disruption. He's intimidating.
I think it's going to be
and
high over under is 47 points, so higher than any of the other.
I take the under.
Yeah, I would take the under on that too.
47 points is 23 each.
yeah, 27-20.
Quick little factoid: the Texans are 0-5 against the spread in the past 5 games. Yeah, so
But they won.
that means they're losing on this one. They would be losing on this one. It's
Yeah, that means
-1, yeah.
that means they would lose the game.
Yeah. So
30-23.
Vince, what are your thoughts?
I just want a good game.
Okay.
Well, I say that. I'm lying.
Oh man,
Look, I hate a good game where I lose, and I hate getting blown out. So I just want to win.
It's at
Let me just say
Texas,
that.
right?
It's here.
It's here.
They play better at home in a dome.
Yes.
Bills are play outside.
Josh
Josh
Allen.
Allen.
Josh Allen killed it last week.
Josh Allen barely threw the ball the week before that.
That's true.
No, they blew out the Jaguars the week before that.
No,
The team that
but
we
they
couldn't-
ran the Jaguars. They didn't throw.
I think he had 4 touchdown passes.
Not the 2 weeks
Can't
before.
hear you, Vinny.
I think he had 4 touchdown passes.
Not 2 weeks. Not 2 weeks ago he did. Remember, because they ran. The whole argument was that they keep running the ball, and Josh Allen gets all his credit because he throws the ball 10 times. Like, remember last year he beat the Cowboys. He threw the ball 13 times. He was 10 of 13 for 127 yards, and Josh Allen, greatest quarterback ever. How he threw 130 yards?
I think the Bills are going to cover.
So you're saying the Texans are going to lose? You're betting against your.
I wouldn't bet against them. I just think that the Texans are going to lose. They just haven't. Their offensive output just has not been there. Joe Mixon's out. That's true.
Yeah.
Tank Dell's first time back.
Maybe. I think he's still questionable. But
I mean, having a solid running back made all the week 1 was the only week we looked like last year, personally.
Yeah, and it was still close. We lost by 2 points.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hope they win. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
So if you had to, don't bet your heart. Don't bet. Just like I don't trust my Cowboys.
If I had to bet, I'd bet on the Bills covering.
So you're saying you bet the Bills, the Texans lose
To win. Yeah, I'd bet the Bills to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that wraps up this session.
Cool.
It was fun.
Thank you, guys.
Cool.
I
Thanks.
appreciate the invite.